Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm here with John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, political columnist. Always good to be with you, my friend.
You bet.
You doing well?
I'm doing great.
Good. All right. We are going to start with a very sobering topic off of the top of the show here today and talk about what happened in Las Vegas late Sunday night, the mass shooting, worst mass shooting in American history here. It's already got the gun control debate ratcheted up to its highest levels already. Do you think we'll see anything different this time around from previous gun control debates?
I don't think so, although I hasten to say some people think maybe. But I believe if the systematic rapid-fire assault weapon execution of 20 first graders and second graders at Sandy Hook in December 2012 did not compel us to some policy reforms, then this won't either. I've got a column for tomorrow that's just sort of almost fatalistic. It's just, here we go. We're going to have the same now banal debate. We're going to say the same things to each other, and we have a Republican-controlled Washington that is beholden to the NRA, the gun lobby generally, and we're not going to see anything happen. And that's what I would predict will happen here.
When you listen to some Republicans speak, and I think our own junior senator was on the Hugh Hewitt show this morning, and
he's on every day, isn't he?
Every Tuesday, to the effect of saying this is a price we pay for freedom, to have the freedom to own guns here. Not that he's not sorry for what has happened here, but it is a price of freedom here. We have other freedoms that we see.
Did he really say that?
That is what I am told he said.
Okay.
I have not seen the exact quote, but I will track that down.
Okay, I won't go any further. We don't know for sure he said it.
But we do have other freedoms that are curtailed in this country. So we have the right to travel, we have the right to speech, and there are limits on all of that stuff. Does that freedom argument hold true to you?
Well, we have a freedom, a right to bear arms, a freedom to do that, but we do not currently permit you to have by law a full machine gun. And from 1994 until 2004, during the Clinton administration, we had a 10-year self-sunsetting law that banned the sale of what we call assault weapons, which are semi-automatic and which we know can be modified to be almost automatic, but we didn't re-up that. We plainly can draw a line. We accept a line that's there. You can't really have your own nuclear weapon, I don't think. But every time this comes up, the gun zealots say that any restriction on guns is a restriction on the Second Amendment, and the argument they make that I give some credence to. If you ban these particular weapons, what we call assault weapons, assault-style weapons, these guys are still going to get them. They're still going to find a way to modify them, and only the innocent people will be harmed by that. So I understand that argument a little, but this, you are right. So far as I can tell, you are right. This is the only freedom that we say oddly, we do accept some impediments to it. We do accept some increments of it, but we're not going to accept any more. That seems to be the conservative, NRA-driven policy. No more restriction. Any definition of a type of weapon that we would seek to restrict seems now unacceptable. And it's unfortunate, because basically what it's saying to me is that the Second Amendment means you have the right to have a rapid-fire, near-automatic weapon modified to be practically automatic, and you have the right to get in a high-rise hotel and kill as many people as you can. That's sort of what that seems to be saying. And even if our public policy wouldn't take all those weapons off the street, it would be an expression of our moral will, that as a society we'd like to see this happen. And I think that's an overwhelmingly popular position, but the inordinate influence of the gun lobby is such that it doesn't get through.
Yeah.
That's my
background
spiel.
checks on the mentally ill is another area where there has been a push for public policy change.
And gun shows and whether they should be regulated to the extent. These are sort of common sense, and they do not restrict the right to bear arms. I'm for the right to bear arms. They're for everybody to be able to protect themselves. I'm for everybody to be able to hunt. But we accept that doesn't mean any kind of weapon in the world. Mm-hmm. Yet we seem to have decided to draw the line today, and we can't allow any further erosion of the types of weapons that can be used.
There is a counter argument too, though, that somebody that wants to do this type of harm and destruction is going to find a way to do this. I mean, this guy, for instance,
I have no doubt of
that could have found another way to have detonated a bomb, to have done something that would have incurred the same amount of harm. So the argument is, why put these other restrictions on people if he's going to still find another way to do this? And where do you stop?
Well, we could stop after banning assault weapons. How about that? We stop there. That's all we want to do right now, so-called assault weapons. But that's the only argument I've ever heard. And it's one I just admitted I'm sensitive to. I mean, people are going to break the law. Well, people are going to break that law, so let's just not have the law. Public policy is not meant to be perfect and to cover and to prohibit every bad actor from bad action. It's designed to say, this is a society and as a government, this is what we believe to be best. This is the one area where the prevailing argument among our political class seems to be, well, you can make that law, but people are going to break it, so let's not have the law. And I don't necessarily accept that. I think we could, as a people, we could accept the popular moral will to express in our public policy that this is not what we want. And people will break the law, and just like they break all laws.
When we come back together next week, I want to hear about the comments that you and I both received from this conversation and from your column that's coming up.
Or, you know, if you're worried about them, just don't ever put it on the air.
No. Okay. I want to talk about the reaction
we
will
get
to this.
I can tell you some I'm getting already.
Okay.
But they're the same. It's the same argument we have. It just tends to get a little more vicious as we move along.
Let's take a quick commercial break. Let's come back and talk about our president and some things that he has had.
Do we have to?
In addition,
okay.
Yes, you have to.
All
That's what you're here for.
All right.
We're back with more John Brummett right after this.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
Welcome back. I'm Roby Brock. We're talking with John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. All right, let's turn our attention to President Trump and where he has been spending some of his time lately. Let's go back to the weekend and talk about Trump's Twitter storm on Saturday and really carried on through Sunday towards the mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico here. Very, some of the most brazen stuff I think we have seen him say in terms of negativity there. Again, another outrageous outburst on Twitter. We don't seem to be surprised by this anymore. It didn't seem to move the needle of public opinion one way or the other, in my estimation. Is it good that we have that kind of indifference towards the president and his commentary?
It's good and it's bad. And you're talking to somebody who has written a couple of columns saying, okay, it's now time to ignore, because it doesn't matter what he says. And I think people are figuring that out. So it's good that we have developed that level of sophistication that we realize our president's rhetoric is beneath us and we don't need to bother with it. It's never good that a president's rhetoric is beneath us, however, and we need to keep that in. Look, but let me, I understand the other side. I try to. And I think there are people who like what Trump is saying, even in this Puerto Rican case, because they think people ought to help themselves. And they think the Democrats looking at any opportunity to whine and say, look, Trump's messing up on Puerto Rico. And when the idea that a president would say to an official of a hurricane devastated island or place, you're an ingrate. Maybe so. You want to say that right now? Well, why don't you wait till they get a little power back, a little electricity, maybe some water service before you start that kind of name calling. But I think the Trump base, that's what we're always talking about. The people who think that New Orleans was all the mayor's fault or the Democratic governor's fault. It wasn't Bush's fault. That people need to help themselves instead of just saying, come help me. It's insensitive to people suffering incredible tragedy, but I think there's some people who like it. But it is a whole new frontier in American presidential rhetoric that you're an American island. You're without power, you're without water, you're without food, you're devastated by a natural act, and the president said, well, you're just an ingrate because you just got a handout, you're just an ingrate. And pronounces that he's doing great. So, but
when there's certainly some evidence to the contrary that there is not as much moving in terms of government help
as he
possible.
explains, there's water around it.
Big water.
Big water.
Ocean water.
Yeah.
Water specifically.
Yeah.
President Trump also rolls out a portion of his tax plan.
Sort of.
Last week we see the tax cuts that are proposed. We haven't really seen how they will be paid for yet. I suspect this goes very much along party lines. Do you think we see another potential health care type situation where a couple of Republicans buck with the party in power and say, I'm going to have more specifics before I can vote on this?
I think there's a possibility that 2 or 3, 4 Republicans would say that exactly. I think there may be a few Democratic senators from Trump states who might offset them. I see a possibility for a little bipartisan support here because cutting taxes is a popular thing to do in a conservative state.
And if you're up for re-election, you don't want to be
one
labeled
who
as
wouldn't cut
he opposed
taxes.
tax cuts.
But at this juncture, we still don't have a plan. And I'd like to talk about it, but all we've got sort of a skeleton still. He's put there's a little more flesh on the bone, but not much. We would go to 3 personal income tax rates, but he doesn't say where the margins kick in. I mean, what income would be under this percentage? What income would be under this, and what income would be under the top? I see that you're going to 3 rates, but the key is which one is my income in? You know, you can't really assess it until you do that. They're going to have some. They as a statement of principle, they're going to let these corporations repatriate their income and assets and set some sort of discounted rate. What rate?
However, there will be other countries that will surely counter that to keep the money in those countries.
If there's one, I always said, as Trump said, who knew health care was complicated? We knew it was complicated. If there's one thing that rivals in complication, in the fact that if you do something here, you encounter policy and political difficulty here, it's sweeping tax reform. Mortgage, they're going to increase the standard deduction, which means the first thing you take off your income at the top of your form, that's going up, which would help middle-income people. But then it's going to reduce the individual exemptions for like dependents, and then the itemized deductions are going to do away with paying your state and local taxes. You can't use that as an itemized deduction, which you might have before. And if you're in a high-tax state, maybe a blue Democratic state, New York or California, that's a severe blow. One, we don't know enough in the details to really judge this yet, and 2, once we start getting details, that's when we have to start looking at the politics. I mean,
But it's going to move quickly once those details roll out, I predict. You can even see that strategy
Oh, yeah,
even being discussed publicly by some.
By the end of the year or early next year.
Right. Well, I think they want to give as little time as possible to the potential lobbyists to talk them out of some of these things. So
But there are lobbyists waiting in the halls who know more about these issues than as much as the people who will be writing the
You
bill.
missed our call. You missed your calling, didn't you? Should have been a lobbyist.
No. I didn't need to do that.
All right. Last but not least,
Yes.
let's bring the tax conversation here to home. Arkansas tax dollars being used for general improvement funds. Bring us up to date on the latest shenanigans as reported by the Democrat-Gazette.
And reported, I understand, previously by the Arkansas Times and a local citizen blogger. Just to be accurate, I've been told that that's the case. Give credit where it's due. There is a former state representative from Northwest Arkansas who has entered a guilty plea. There is a former state senator who stands under indictment that he is contesting for a kickback scheme and taking this general improvement money, this money that these legislators took to themselves and laundered through these planning and development districts, giving it to a ostensibly religious college, which then gave it to a consultant who then gave it back in part to the legislators. This new story is that those two legislators were the primary benefactors of some other thing that got incorporated down in Benton, the Arkansas Health and Economic Research Incorporation.
Not familiar with them.
No, it had been set up, the paperwork had been done a few days before, and they were going to work on ozone therapy and alternative medicine and umbilical cord storage and some other things.
Yeah. What is ozone therapy? I'm not familiar with that.
I'm told by people who have like medical degrees that it's not actually a thing.
Okay.
But I'd like to know, though it's not a thing, who thinks it's a thing and what thing might it be? But I can't answer that. The point is, they got this money, and two legislators gave smaller amounts, Bart Hester and Janet De La Rosa, who really, they didn't know what they were doing. That's their defense. I call this in a column today, petty looting of the state treasury. And we need to make it harder and make people be more imaginative. I mean, to just say, here's some of our surplus money.
No, this was pretty imaginative to concoct all of this new company and ozone therapy and
one
all
of
that.
the offending, one of the legislators who didn't know that her money would gone to this thing or couldn't remember, she said it's not like the KKK is getting this money. To which I say, well, it could have been. All the KKK needed to do would be reorganized as the Arkansas Health and Economic Research Incorporation and have a friendly legislator. That's how loose this thing was. Just give legislators charge of equal sums of money and let them play with it as they want. If that wasn't an open, and to think back in the 90s actually endorsed that this happened. It is.
But you've evolved, John. You've come around.
Not only have I've confessed and repented and thrown myself on the mercy of readers.
It's a good Church of Christ.
I'm just sorry. I'm sorry. But it's an it's one of the it's petty. It's a little bit of money in the broad scheme of the politics, but it is so brazen and petty that my offense, the offense I take is limitless on this thing. It's just an outrage.
Your opinions are limitless too, but we appreciate you sharing them with us.
Sadly so. Okay.
All right. John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Catch him online at arkansasonline.com. Follow him on Twitter and certainly read the newspaper.
Well, yes, please.
All right. That's all for today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock. Thanks for tuning in.